Hi, you are watching SightsIn Plus, and this is Romesh Srivastava. Please to subscribe the channel for the HR news, for HR updates, and conversation with the top-notch CHROs, thought leaders, and business heads. Today is really a very special day for me, and I'm super excited to welcome two global HR thought leaders. One is the father of modern HR, and another one is the father of HR in India. So that is really very special day for me, and
Thank you.
this is a privilege and honor to welcome both of you. Welcome, Dev and Dr. T.V. Rao to SightsIn Plus.
Thank you. It's an honor for me to be with you. But I should say, just to make this more personal, I'm the father of this family. We had our
Okay.
75th anniversary, and all of our children and grandchildren dressed in the decade of the 70s. So I am a
Thank you for
father and
sharing the
grandfather of
pictures.
that
Thank you
family.
for sharing this picture of a family. And Dave, I was going through this program, your article that you are talking about, the Global HR Leadership Experience Program that you have launched recently, I think. And three pointers are very specific in that article. One is talking about the next generation HR leaders, that this program is for the next generation HR leaders. And second, you're talking about the four HR inflection points. And then we have elaborated about the Global HR Leadership Experience Program. What is this all about? So very first, if you can brief us, if you can let us know exactly what is this Global HR Leadership Experience Program?
We don't start with the program. It's really interesting. TV and I have been in this field for a long time. And what we find fascinating is continuing to evolve and change. What we are today is not what we were when we started TV in the 70s, in the 80s, and 90s, the 200s, the 2000s. And the evolution is continuing. The world is changing so quickly in India, in China, in the US, in Latin America. We see that as an inflection point, that there's an opportunity to continue to change and not do what we've done before. And so we decided in the HR world that change is as prevalent as it is anywhere. It's changing so quickly. So we put together an advisory group of some of the most thoughtful colleagues in the world, including TV, including Arthur Young in China, David Green in the UK, Pek Kem in Singapore, some professors and CHROs. And we said, if you had a clean sheet of paper, what does the HR professional of the future need to know? And we came up with some very simple but not easy to do ideas. We need to deliver stakeholder value. HR is not about HR. It's about creating value in the marketplace. So it's not about how many people we hire, train, pay or develop. It's what are we doing with those activities so that a customer has a better experience, so that an investor has a better experience. And TV continues to remind me so that we serve society better. Our job in HR is to serve stakeholders. That's an interesting shift. Second transition is we do that not just by people, but by human capability. Human is the people, no question. Talent is the raw ingredients. We've got to get it. But we also build a great organization. We build a system that outperforms the individual. Third, we upgrade the HR skills. And finally, and I can't believe I've gone 8 minutes or 5 minutes without saying AI. We have to say AI every other minute because AI is the information tool and analytics tool that allows us to make that happen. So we see four inflection points: stakeholder value, human capability, upgrading HR, and using AI. And then we said, let's put together a program. So we went to this advisory board and we said, if you had a clean sheet of paper, what would you do? And that's the program we put together.
Great. I think, yeah, I gone through the details as well. And there are 14, I think, faculty members, and these are the CEOs, these are the CHROs, and some HR thought leaders, some authors. So there are, and from the India, there are two faculty members. One is Dr. T.V. Rao, and another one is Mr. Ramcharan. He is, I think, also there. So, Dr. T.V. Rao, what is your take on this? How do you see this program? How it is going to be benefited for the next generation HR leaders?
Well, I think most HR leaders are still fairly inward looking. I think they still don't have much of a global exposure, what happens is they're quite comfortable implementing systems and they create their own world. But today, as Dave says, we are totally in a changed world. Particularly, technology is multiplying, has multiplier effects and a lot of things. So I see this program as a great opportunity for those who are aspiring to be good HR leaders, leaders of excellence, to get global exposure, to revisit themselves, to understand the context. Particularly, there are two contexts which are very important today. One is, I think, the post-pandemic, we are in a changed world. I think relationships, particularly family, at least in Asian part of the world, family, friends, and others have become much more important in the lives of people besides work. Second is the AI is totally changing. AI runs the risk of taking people away from human touch to pure technology kind of thing. That's very, very important to say. While AI has phenomenal benefits, and you can't survive without getting expertise in AI, but you have to have AI with human touch. So it builds HR leaders to be global in outlook and much more lasting and serving all stakeholders, what Dave has mentioned. HR can't anymore. I still remember when Dave wrote HR Employee Champion, we for many years felt that HR people were much more of employer champions rather than employee champions. I think today, post-pandemic, there is no alternative but to be an employee champion. At the same time, you can't be an employee champion unless you care for what they call the stakeholder value. The investors, I think, have to value the corporation has to not only survive. Today, they are talking of 10x times and things like that. So it puts people to understand the context, understand at the same time HR systems. I think it's a very good concept Dave has come up with. Building capabilities, organizational capabilities, managing talent, building leadership capabilities, introspect, and position oneself as a great leader. I think that's an opportunity. I think for most Asian people aspiring to be even CEOs, CHROs or CEOs. I think without people you can't do anything today. I mean that's the way I look at it.
Absolutely. People are the backbone of any organization. And if you look at the program, so Dave, I was going through, so there are four, you have mentioned the inflection points. And these are the four inflection points are influenced by some of the environmental factors, as you already put it, maybe like the artificial intelligence, maybe the technology, maybe the multi-generation workforce, maybe the demography, maybe that is the political scenario in a country, that may be the economic scenario. So I'll request if you can give me the elaborated picture of these four inflection points.
HR is not about HR. HR is about delivering value to stakeholders. And here's an example. There's a business team meeting, an executive team, a board of directors, and somebody in HR is trying to build a training program for leaders. So they go in and they often say, here's my training program. Here's who I'll train. Here's the content. Here's the delivery. Here's the cost. I think that's the wrong place to start. If I go in and meet as an HR professional with a business team or a business leader, I start by saying, my goal today is to get a customer to buy more product. My goal today is to get an investor to invest in our services, give us a higher price earnings ratio, give us more success, give our market value. My goal today is to help us build a community reputation that we are a great corporate citizen. My goals are your goals. And in HR, we know what the executives' goals are. We know their KPIs, their OKRs. I'm going to build a training program that will help you reach your goals and our goals as a company. Boy, that's an inflection point. I still don't, when I go to a talk, I often start with a question, and I'll bet TV does the same. What's the biggest challenge in your job today? And this is what the HR people say. Hybrid work, that was a challenge. I love culture. TV behind your screen is culture on the board. We change culture. I got to build leadership. There's a great book on your shelf, Romesh, about leaders in the making. I got to build agility, another book. And I look at her and I say, you've missed it completely. The biggest challenge in your job today is to build stakeholder value, that a customer will buy a product, that an investor will invest, and that the community will have a citizenship feel. That's a huge inflection point. And when I say it, everybody says, well, I agree with that. And then I say, well, what did you say is your greatest challenge? Retaining good people. And then here's the takeaway, and I'll stop with this. Put "so that" behind your challenge. I want to build agility. That's one of the books on your shelf. So that a customer gets the product they want when they want it. An investor invests in us. A community sees us as an agile player. I want to build leadership so that. I want to build culture so that. For me, that inflection point drives HR to a new place. The conversation in HR starts with the stakeholder value and how we make it happen. I'll stop with that right now because I love TV. And TV, you have been so helpful to remind us that citizenship and family and relationships are so critical to the world today. And organizations should be settings where that happens.
No, I think the most important part of this program, Ramesh, is it's a three-phase. It's a 100-day engagement with a 30-day pre-work, which in my view is very unusual for many programs. Normally, you design a program, you get the participant, deliver the program, and that's the end of it. But here, I think a lot of preparation is planned where you get in touch with the organization, identify some kind of a project, and also do a 360 assessment. So it's about a 30-day pre-work which is planned. Then about 8-day intense work at South Carolina University, Darla Moore School, where I think they will have exposure to many of the faculty, with a lot of sessions. That is where I think a lot of HR technology, leadership, and other things will be talked about. And part of this, I'm sure, will be flexible depending on the profile finally we get. But then it's followed by a 60-day follow-up kind of a thing where we want to be, I think, Dave and the team have planned a lot of hand-holding and coaching depending upon the needs of each individual. So it's an unusual 100-day engagement. That is why I think we call it experience. I think that's what I think it's a great kind of
So
opportunity.
this is total 100 days program, and most of the days are in the follow-up kind of, so that we can maximize the value of this program.
Yeah, the people have to be engaged, but actually it's about 8 days physically be at the site where they have an opportunity to interact. Isn't that what we designed?
Right. Dave, the qualification eligibility, if you say that is for the next generation HR leaders. So how do you define with the next generation HR leaders? What is the eligibility for this? Any CHRO can join second line of the team member in the CHRO? Who is the best fit for this program?
Anyone listening to your podcast. It's likely N-1 or 2. It could be a CHRO, or it could be one person who's the backup successor or the person behind that. One of the things we're finding in the last few years, there's been an incredible turnover of CHROs and CEOs in the US. I don't know if that's true in India, but I think it probably is. And what we're finding is a lot of the new CHROs coming in, the next generation, are not inside the company. And so a CEO comes in and he or she looks around and says, I need HR to do the things that TV and I talk about. I don't see it. Well, we want to build a big pool of HR talent in India, in China. We have big ambitions. I think TV at this life stage, I don't want little ambitions. I want big ambitions. We want to change this field. And that first inflection point is to create value. A second inflection point. So when the CEO says, okay, help me better get customers, help me get investors, help me serve the community, what are you going to give me? Well, the traditional answer in HR is, I'm going to give you great people. And it's true. People are the raw ingredients. They're the They're the raw ingredients. If I bake a cookie, I've got to have good ingredients. By the way, I talk about cookies as food. I eat a lot of cookies. You've got to have the raw ingredients. But we believe there's three things that HR gives an organization. One is talent. That's people, workforce, employee. Two is organization. Talent is the people, that's my fingers. Organization is the fist. They come together as a team. Agility is a capability. Talent is a competence. Organization is a capability. This is C.K. Prahalad and Gary Hamel's brilliant work. And I can't go too long without mentioning C.K., who, TV, you knew, he was my mentor. And he said, core competence of a company is not just technical, it's organizational capability. And I taught with CK for about 15 years at Michigan. He would focus more on the strategy. I would focus more on the capability. But we have talent, the fingers, organization, my fist, and then the combination are leaders in the making. I'm going to say the name of your book twice, Leaders in the Making. We need talent, organization, leadership, all committed to this community, to the investor, and to the customer. That's what we're going to be teaching in this program, the latest ideas in those three areas.
I think very well you have defined about organizational capabilities. So that is organization succeed on the basis of their capabilities. So Dr. TV Rao, now I'm coming to another part. So, might be I could be trolled for this, but still I think we see that HR is often, considered as a support function still in many of the companies, and they are not getting more attention by the CEOs. So by this program, how do you see that we can develop some kind of the leadership skills so that they can influence the CEOs?
Yeah, I have, Ramesh, if you are following some of the talks I've been giving, I've always said that the HR person, if the person is excellent, he should even be better than the CEO. He will even lead the CEOs. Because CEOs, if you look at, are busy designing the future. But in designing the future, CEOs, at least in India, they spend a lot of time managing the government and government systems, managing the environment. And they are not, unfortunately, except a few CEOs who are exceptions, are not in touch with the customers. If they are going and working in countries like China or working in US, Mexico, any country you're working with, it is a HR guy who happens to be more in touch with customers. While he recruits other HR people there, I think he'll have to be sensitive to the way the products are being sold, the opportunities that are there. So HR has a lot of business, could have a lot of business sense. So I've seen in the pharma industry, for example, it is the HR who comes back and says, now this is likely to work, this is not likely to work, and so like. So I think we have to put HR, most HR, into that kind of a leadership seat. So this is one thing. Second thing is, I think, in India, there are people who are top level HR leaders working with large companies. They're a separate category. They are at least in touch with the technological developments. But 80 to 90% of the HR managers are still stuck in administrative roles, what you are saying. I think if we can't go for the top level, even the next level, you should get the CHROs to change their mindset. For example, recruitment doesn't remain anymore the traditional way of recruiting people. There is a sea change in the way you have to recruit people today. You have to look for technology savviness. People have to be willing to learn technology. They can't say, no, I don't know this AI, this is all new, etc. I think they have to be technology savvy, willing to learn. And it's not difficult to learn nowadays. And second thing is you have to get people who are skilled and ready to contribute from tomorrow. Because many employees are going to be short-lived. People seem to prefer project-based kind of work today. If that is so, recruitment will have a totally different kind of an approach. Skill-based, not necessarily looking at degrees, but more of skill certifications and things of that kind. So all these, I think, how can you be sensitive to the changing environment? So this should put our HR people to be restless acquirers of knowledge. With I think being technology savvy, using technology. Technology always has both I mean, you can't. I think one of the things that everyone is talking today, besides technology, you need to have empathy, very important, and you need to be concerned about people, and you need to be concerned about family and their health, and the society where the people are living in. All this kind of the stakeholder value, what Dave was talking about, extending to customers, community, and also, of course, to the investors and the board. So I think one of the particular focal points of this program is on helping the HR uh, leaders to also identify their role in the board, managing the board, working with the board, impacting the board, and things like that. I think a whole lot of things. I think it's a vast area to, but focus in terms of the technological changes that have taken place in the environment in which we are living and so on. I hope
Yeah,
that is a
absolutely.
convincing argument for
Very
HR leadership.
elaborated and brilliant response on this. Dave, I'm coming to you with the
Let
almost
me
a
let me
similar
let
kind
me
of the
comment. Let me
question.
comment on TV's comment for a moment because I thought that was so helpful. You mentioned Ramesh and TV mentioned I mentioned technology. AI is pervasive. We see AI. In fact, whenever you do a show now, you ought to have somebody pull their hair out to make sure they're not a robot or they're real. I think there's a formula we need. AI times AI. Artificial intelligence times authentic intimacy. The artificial intelligence is the technology. It's an algorithm. It can process and access data. It can manage my head, it can manage information. Authentic intimacy is that human touch. It's the feel. And if you do one without the other, you're in trouble. If you have authentic intimacy, I care about you, but I don't have information that will help you. If I have AI, artificial intelligence, but not intimacy and caring, you're not going to have a long term impact. And I think in the technology space, HR needs to manage that combination artificial intelligence times authentic intimacy. And that combination, I think, will help HR professionals build value more for those stakeholders. So I just really like it. And the other thing, TV, that you continually bring to me is sensitivity to the community, our
Yeah.
family, our cities, our country. That community value becomes so critical. We can't lose that when we serve the community through the organization, we do well to do good, or we do good to do well. We try to serve others, and in serving others and doing good, we do well economically. And we want to infuse that in the next generation HR people. I've had people sometimes accuse me of saying, Dave, you're focused on business results, and I am. And they say, well, you're focused on business results. You're focused on business results. We care about people. And my comment is the best thing you can give an employee is a company that succeeds in the marketplace. Because if you don't succeed in the marketplace, there is no workplace. And that success in the marketplace is a function of how well you serve the community space. Are we giving back? Are we doing good in the world? And we want HR professionals to balance that. Work life, work society, philanthropy, service, all of those things become critical to what we do. So, TV, I just love those two ideas that you've got, the technology and the community service that we try to do through HR. Thank you.
Yeah,
Romesh, I'm going to
absolutely.
ask you a question. I'm going to ask you a
Yeah,
question.
yeah,
You
please.
do many of these podcasts, you visit with lots of people. In India, and I need to learn this, and I'm learning from TV, I'm learning from Ram Charan, I'm learning from what CK taught me and my friend Wayne Brockbank, who's in India quite a bit. What do you think the challenges are for good HR professionals today?
See,
What do good HR
yeah,
professionals need to
I
have?
was coming to the similar kind of the question. So right now, when we are talking about the technologies, we're talking about the evolvement of a lot of artificial intelligence and so on. But the challenge is real challenge is how to influence the CEOs to build the culture of resilience, to build the culture of empathy. Because CEOs they are busy in somehow in future making, profitability, these and all. How you can influence them so that right now, recently we have seen a case of well-being. I don't want to put the name of that company, but everyone is blaming that particular CEO. But where is the HR guys who can influence these CEOs and create this kind of the culture of well-being, culture of wellness, culture of resilience, culture of so that part is I think that is very important. So my question would be that do you develop this kind of the skills so that they can influence the CEOs to develop such kind of culture?
I'm going to turn to TV. TV on the back of on your whiteboard is the word culture.
Yes.
I counted, Ramesh. I think you said the word culture 7 times in less than 1 minute. TV, what do we need to do to manage culture? I think it's Ramesh. And maybe you took it from TV's board, and we're all feeling this culture piece becomes so critical.
Yeah,
TV,
Dr. T. Viraj, you can
Well,
respond on this.
well, I think it's very, very important for people to understand what the significance of culture. What do we mean by that? Culture is, I mean, I always quote the excellent culture we had at the Indian Institute of Management, Ahmedabad. The day I joined IIM Ahmedabad, I observed a very interesting kind of thing. It's a peer culture. Everyone is on the first name basis. Every person had the same size room, whether CK Prahlad or me or an assistant professor or the director of the institute and so on. And you will not miss a class. If the class is given on time, if the assignment has to be submitted, it has to be submitted. And at the same time, I think there is a feedback given by the students, and you take it with, even if you are good or bad, you take it very seriously, work on it. So culture is the norms, values, the way you behave, and things like that. In fact, somebody who visited IIM Ahmedabad at one point have said, here people don't seem to walk; they are run. They seem to be running. I think it's an interesting observation. That means everyone is driven by purpose. What is the purpose? The purpose is to make impact the students and the participants who come for the programs, and you get the feedback from the community who got benefited from this. So I think if a HR, CHRO has to impact the culture, first he himself or she herself need to understand the significance of the culture. In fact, I keep saying that we have a strong culture. Your next CEO is the culture. Culture rules the organizations and so on. We have had some excellent examples like Hindustan Unilever, wonderful kind of a culture if you look at it. Infosys at some point of time, and many of these institutions and things like that. So your question, Dave, how do we get the HR people to first of all appreciate the culture? And there are lots and lots of good case studies. The trouble with most HR guys is that they look at their own tenure in a very short term way. Mindset is just be there and how do I get the next? I think this mindset we have to change. And those people who stuck to the company, I think they have, I mean, economically, they have always made themselves. When you stuck to the company, I think the company always takes good care of you. Your customers will take care of you. I think we have to influence the mindset by telling stories, by giving a lot of these examples. And I think, as you have rightly designed, getting them to work on. If somebody takes a project, I want to impact, change the culture in my organization. In the 30-day, pre work 30 days, I think if the organization identifies, I am sure we can bet by the end of the 100-day program, the CHRO walks back with something which will make some difference, if not in the entire company, at least in one subsystem, one part of the company, and so on. So I think it's we work with it. It's nebulous, but at the same time, because it is nebulous, it requires to be uh, handled very powerfully, guided, coached, and so on. I mean, that's the way I look at it.
So Dr. TV, now post-COVID, generally we have seen most of the whenever I had a conversation with the CHRO or so there has been their focus on the culture part. So how we can build the culture because they felt somehow it has been squeezed after the COVID. So, anyways, now we are coming to this another. We are coming to that program. So we are also at the end of time right now. So, Dave, would you like to share something else which is important and we did not touch for this Global HR Leadership Experience Program?
I'm going to pick up on where TV was with culture because you said it 7 times in 1 minute. TV said it 7 times in one. it is not just the person, it's the culture of the team. And I'm going to put an addition on what we just said. We often look at culture as norms and values and who we are and the unwritten rules and the things we should do. I want to define culture from the outside in. Remember, our focus is stakeholder value. Customers see a brand. A firm has a brand. Tata has a brand. Hindustan Unilever has a brand. A brand as a company shapes the identity in the marketplace. We believe that's the starting place for culture. What does Hindustan Unilever want to be known for in the marketplace? Great products, great service. Those should be our internal values. So we're going to try to teach HR people to build the value of the values. So we have, every company has a set of values. You know, we value service, we value innovation, we value citizenship. Here's our suggestion. Take your values to your most critical customers, HR and a salesperson. Ask them 3 questions. Question 1, are these the values you want us to have? We value service, we value innovation, we value citizenship. Yeah, I'd like you to have those values. Question 2, you, the customer, tell us, what do we have to do to demonstrate that we live them? What does service mean to you, the customer? What does innovation mean? What does citizenship mean? And they define the behaviors. Question 3. By the way, when I work with business leaders, they kind of go, yeah, that's kind of interesting, but watch out for question 3. When we do, are these the values you want? What do we have to do to show we live them? Question 3. When we do those things, will you buy more from us? Suddenly, the value of the values gets real. And they'll say, yeah, I'm going to go from 40% of my purchases with you to 60% to 70%. That's the value of our program. We're going to turn culture not just as an internal set of values and norms and psychological safety, but as an external identity that creates value for the customer or the investor. To me, that gets exciting. And everybody says, that's not HR, that's business. And I go, HR is business. That's exactly what we're trying to do. So, Ramesh, I'm excited. I've got a publicly TV, NHRD and India has been a thought leader. CK was my mentor at Michigan. Ram Charan is a dear friend. I can never find him at home because he has no home.
So let us conclude here that HR is a business, and as far as this program is concerned, so this is really is value addition for the next gen HR leaders. Thank you so much, Dave and Dr. T.B. Rao, for joining us and sharing your wonderful thoughts. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That's wonderful. How nice of you. And I hope many people from this part of the world will get benefit from this program. That's wonderful. Thanks for facilitating this.